And then you got a good comparison here. You got 9.6 white pages CGC, 9.6 white pages CBCS. This is a great way to see apples to apples what a CGC book versus a CBCS book goes for. You got exactly the same book in 9.6. You would not be able to tell these two books apart outside of the case. And this one, the CGC, just sold for $9,250, exactly fair market on Go Collect. And the CBCS is selling in 12 seconds at $7,000. Hi, and welcome to Grails to Astonish. It's time for night 2 of the ComicLink Fall Featured Auction closing. Last night, we watched all the books from A through D in the alphabet close. Tonight, we're going to watch D for Detective Comics, all the way through to O, if there are there any comics, Omega Man? Not many comics start with O. The books start closing in 3 minutes. Not much time for prep. We're going to get right to it. So we're going to be starting with the PreBatman Detective Comics. They got 7 issues of Detective that predate the creation of the Batman character in Detective Comics 27. You don't see these very often. Some collectors really like going after them because, I don't know, because they're Detective Comics before Batman. This copy is a 4.5 creamed off white. Quite a bit of pencil at the top. INT 7/17/37, that's the date. The fair market on this is $3,500 with 7 sales. It's population like. Population on a really early, there you go. See, this is the thing. This is why these are a big deal. 24 copies graded. This is a very rare book. Closes in 3 seconds. $3,500 fair market, already at $6,700. Closes for $9,555. So there are 7 sales on record for this book, but I'm guessing, no, there was one last year for $13,225. Go Collect's algorithm is not doing a great job here. It's placing this at $3,500, yet the last sale from last year is $13,225, and the one before that, 7 years prior, $4,183. So we must have some sales at adjacent grades that are adjusting the curve on that price, but this just went for $9,555, more than double what they've got listed here. Issue 22 with the Crimson Avenger in 2.5, going for $4,100. Fair market's $5,000, might hit fair market, did not, $4,300. We got this one closing in 20 seconds. Detective Comics 26, novel, simply because it is Detective Comics 26, and something big was coming the following month. 4.5. Fair market is $10,000. I think it's just like a gravitational pull. I think it's $10,000 because it's so close to 27. Going for $6,600, and it closes for $6,700. And then we get into Batman. Detective Comics 36, the 5th or 6th Batman cover maybe? Just before Robin was introduced in issue 38, so one of the last solo Batman issues. Racist depiction on the cover, 0.5, centerfold missing. This book has a lot of problems, but it has a very intact cover. So I think it's going to go high. Book value on a 0.5 is going to be much lower. I think we're already way past book value because 0.5s vary wildly in how they present. You really can't get much out of the book value on 0.5s. This one says $4,900. Just looking at this, we know it's going to go well above that. And it is $6,300, closes for $7,858 because it is a nice looking book to have. You put this on the wall behind you for your YouTube channel, you're going to look like the guy. Second appearance of the Penguin, 8.0. Okay, second appearance, but he's not on the cover. He wasn't on the cover of his first appearance. Most of the early big Batman villains did not appear on the covers of their first appearances. I'll rattle some off. Joker, Penguin, Two-Face, Catwoman. The big 4 did not appear on the covers of the first appearances. Riddler is maybe also in the big 4. He did. 8.0 fair market is $3,600. Just closed. Bidding was at $2,900 and it sold for almost exactly fair market value, $3,575. Then we got a Two-Face. This is the first cover appearance. Second appearance of Two-Face, first cover appearance. Not much of a cover appearance though. You really have to squint to see him. Issue 68 in 5.0. $3,200 fair market. Bidding's already just above at $3,300. 10 seconds to go. We're up to 3,500 in the final seconds. 3, 2, 1. 3,600 closing. Fair market was 3,200. Yeah, beat it by 10%. There you go. It definitely matters when the character is on the cover. I would say a first cover appearance is going to be better than a first appearance not on the cover. For most collectors these days, the cover matters a lot because they're all in cases. Then we got a Dick Sprang cover, Phantom of the Library. This one is really distinct from most Batman covers. It has more of a cartoony look. That is how Dick Sprang drew. 9.0. Last sale was almost a decade ago for $1,195 on Heritage. Might be the same copy. 12921. This is the same copy that sold on Heritage. Pretty much exactly what it sold for 10 years ago. Let's update, see if it moved. It moved quite a bit, 1,857. That pretty much accounts for inflation adjustment. It's been quite a decade. I don't know if $1,200 in 2016 has the same buying power of $1,850 today, but I don't think it's far off. Prices have risen a lot. Add in the 10% commission that the seller is paying to ComicLink, and this is pretty much a break even. Then we get deeper into the detective run. I'm not going to cover all these, but we do have the first Riddler. First Riddler with Riddler on the cover, Detective Comics 140. Going for $22,000 in 7.0. Fair market is $23,000. Somebody was check and go collect on this one. They're one bid away from fair market. Let's see at 15 seconds. Hasn't moved. If it isn't moving in the last 15 seconds, I don't think it's gonna move, and it's so close to fair market, it'll probably stay put here. 22,000 closing. Powwow Smith Indian Lawman is the B story, but the A story here is we get a 9.0 white pages with not technically the Joker on the cover, but a Joker mask on the cover and Dr. Doom. We got the Joker and Dr. Doom kind of teaming up on this cover. This is DC's Dr. Doom, nothing at all to do with the Marvel Dr. Doom, who we met 12 years later. Closing in 51 seconds. No idea what the price is. We have a 9.6 sale for $29,000 on Heritage, a $96,000 sale for a Pedigree. Gosh, is this the same copy? Looks like the same copy. The Promise Collection 9.6 sold for $96,000 in 2021, and then it sold for $28,000 on Heritage, same auction house 2 years later. Somebody took a bath on that. But that was the 9.6, and this is the 9.0. So we got no idea what the 9.0 value is, but the 9.6 copy has dropped far, far down. We got an 8.5 selling for $6,500. So that'll put us at about, it's a big jump from 8.5 to 9.0. So it could be $9,000 or $10,000. Doesn't look like it though. $47.44 is the high bid. Closes at $57.65. Below what the 8.5 sold for. And that is pretty much it for the detectives and pretty much it for me. Because I gotta run. Oh, I'm gonna miss so much stuff. It's sad. All right, we're back. And I missed a whole lot of auctions. Everybody's at soccer practice. That's the good news. Bad news is I missed all the exciting comics. Most of the Fantastic Fours were here at the end of Fantastic Four. But back on the good news side of things, I stopped and I got dinner. So I missed all the Fantastic Fours. I would have liked to have seen what the 3 Fantastic Four 1 sold for. I'd like to have seen what that Fantastic Four number 5 in 9.2 sold for. Let's play some catch up. We had a Fantastic Four 48 in 8.5 sell. It was going at $3,600. Sold for $3,600. Fantastic Four number 9 in 9.4. It was $11,199. Sold for $13,039. Number 50 in 9.0. 2,677. Then we had First Black Panther in issue 52 at 8.0. Bidding was at 1627. 2,050 fair market. Bidding closes at 1727. I don't think I've ever seen a Black Panther first appearance sell for fair market. It seems to have just been steadily dropping. So we're looking at Fantastic Four Annual 2 at 9.0. This is the origin of Dr. Doom. Far from the first appearance. He showed up a lot in the early Fantastic Four run. He was definitely their favorite villain from the get-go, but they didn't tell his story. He had a mother who was a gypsy and she died, and there was a king and the father. I don't quite recall the details, but they pretty much stuck with that original origin through the decades. It's been retconned a little bit, but the original origin of Doctor Doom, which is a pretty good yarn actually, is right here, and it's a great cover. Obviously the big Doctor Doom spec book is issue 5. We're about to get a big dose of Doctor Doom. There's about to be a lot of potential Doctor Doom excitement. You never know how these things will go. The trailer is going to premiere before Avatar 3, 4, 5, what Avatar are we on? In a couple weeks on the 19th, and it'll hit the internet at the same time, I'm sure. And we'll see how excited folks are for a Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom. So this is sort of your last chance. And this book, if you're not going to speculate on the first appearance of Doctor Doom in issue 5, I'd say the next best book to get would be this one. It's one of the best Doctor Doom covers. I've been watching the prices on this particular book because it's an attainable book for the last year and a half, and it has not been going up. It hasn't been going up at all. So if it hasn't been going up in this lead up to the trailer, I don't think there's much reason to think it'll go up after. The fair market is $2,500, and that I think is way down. Yeah, it was up at $4,500 4 years ago. Now we have our last sale at $2,025. They're putting the fair market at $2,500 because the prior sale 3 months ago was $3,500. Yeah, since the announcement in July of 2024, there have only been 4 sales at 9.0. They've all been hovering around $2,000, except for one anomalously high sale. And that's right where we are here at $2,000. So we've got 37 seconds left to go. I don't advocate speccing on comics with movies and shows coming out, but as I said in my video on comic book speculation, movie speculation, if you're going to do it on a book, Fantastic Four or 5, and then this one, I think are the ones to do it on. So I've been watching this and I have bought a couple. It's closed now. I have a feeling it's not going to move from this because the 3 of those 4 sales were all at around $2,000. Let's see, here we go. It did not move. $1,955. We'll see what happens with this Avengers Doomsday movie. They got all the ingredients in place to make a really good movie. Thanos, there was the great Infinity Gauntlet in the 90s, was sort of the basis for who he is. He'd appeared in a lot of things beforehand, but that's where Starlin really crystallized his characterization. And that was, I think, in a lot of ways similar to the character we got. Josh Brolin's Thanos in Avengers Infinity War was a more textured, deeper character. He had more going on. And my point is, they made a villain who was the protagonist of Avengers Infinity War. Structurally, the main character of that movie was the villain, which you don't see very often, and they did a great job of that. He was able to carry that movie. It was a Darth Vader tier villain who has stayed in our culture. Not a lot of things have. There's very little monoculture left. There's very few movies that everybody goes to see. The 2 Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame, were that. And I think they've got all the principal players back in place. A lot of things have changed. The MCU is struggling, but I'm optimistic. All of this is to say, I think Fantastic Four Annual 2, Origin of Doom at 9.0 is a good buy at $2,000. So bravo, whoever got it. Now this is a terrible buy. Fantastic Four Annual 6 at 9.6. This was a big spec book for the movie that just came out, but it's just been plummeting ever since that movie came out. $72.50 is the fair market for a 9.6, and this is bidding at half that. Let's see what it closed at. $45.44. It's about a 30 to 40% drop. There's no future for this book. Where was it before the speculation hit? Before we knew about a Fantastic Four movie coming, this was at $38.40 and then $55.55. Shot up to $22,000 when word leaked of the storyline, and now here we are, back down. And that's my general overall summary for comic book movie speculation is it goes up and then it goes back down to where it was. That's what almost always happens. And maybe that's what's going to happen with the Doom book. It's certainly what happened with this Annual 6. Foom 10 in 9.8 white pages is closing in 2 minutes. It was 5,000 or 6,000 a week ago when I did the previews on this. It's now up to 8,150. I think the only way to get a reasonable comparison on price here is to look at Giant Size X-Men 1, the first appearance of the new X-Men, which came out just after this. We can just scroll right down. 9.8 white pages is closing in 5 minutes and is bidding at 18,500. And here we've got Foom 10, the real first appearance of the new X-Men. Colossus, Nightcrawler, Storm, Thunderbird. Wolverine had already appeared, Banshee had already appeared. So 4 new characters make their debut on the cover of this issue, and it's going for a little bit under half. I'd say that's about right, because it's not Giant Size X-Men 1. We haven't got the story. We haven't got all the things that you get when you get that book. There it goes. It closes. 8,150 was the high bid. 9,800. So half what Giant Size X-Men sells for. I was in a shop in Phoenix the other day, talked to the owner there about this book. He says that they've been kind of flying off the shelves lately. Just within the last few months, people seem to have picked up on this being the X-Men key, and for the last 50 years, it wasn't particularly valued. He seemed to think that the book was suddenly hot. I'd certainly never heard of Foom at all, to be honest, until the last year or so when I started seeing it in auctions. You've got the Hulk cover Foom that has the first Wolverine in it, and now this one, which I didn't know about, which has the first new X-Men. We're 2 minutes away from 5 copies of Giant Size X-Men #1 closing, which gives me time to eat some tofu. Giant Size X-Men 1, it's like buying a share of stock in the stock market. There's so many copies, they sell all the time. The prices move up and down, but you can always find a sale within the last week or two of this book at virtually any grade. There's just so many copies. It's one of the most graded comics in existence. The summer featured auction, Giant Size X-Men 1 had been at 37,000 when I did my preview, and then was down to 29,000 when it closed a week later. Here we are now at 24,000 for the 9.8. So they have just kept on dropping. 25 seconds until closing, and it's at 18,501. Now it's at 19,000. Doesn't look to me like it's even going to get to 24,000. I would say 20% below fair market, which is 19,200, is probably where we're going to land with this in 10 seconds. Are there any more bids coming in? 20,000, it's up to 20,000. 3, 2, 1, 20,000 is where it landed. So 4,000 below 24,000 is about 16% below fair market. So it's still dropping. 20,000. How much farther can it drop? 9.6 is going to be less than half that. 9,250 fair market, and we're at 8,077 with 20 seconds left to go, is not moving. And then you got a good comparison here. You got 9.6 white pages CGC, 9.6 white pages CBCS. This is a great way to see apples to apples what a CGC book versus a CBCS book goes for. You got exactly the same book in 9.6. You would not be able to tell these two books apart outside of the case. And this one, the CGC, just sold for 9,250, exactly fair market on Go Collect. And the CBCS is selling in 12 seconds at $7,000, up to $7,350, 5 seconds to closing. $7,700. There you go, right there. In case you're curious what your comic is worth in a CBCS case versus a CGC case, you got it right here. $9,250 in a CGC, $7,700 in a CBCS. They're exactly the same book. $7,700 divided by $9,250. 83%, 5/6. Using Giant Size X-Men #1 as our sort of Coca-Cola index for buying power. Economists use a bottle of Coca-Cola as sort of a fixed item. They've been around for 100 years. It's a good gauge of buying power, how much a bottle or a can of Coca-Cola costs. Giant Size X-Men 1 is the comic hobby's version of that because it is such an abundant book. So using that as a gauge, CBCS books are worth 5/6 as much, 83%. You can round it down to 80% if you want. So if you pay, I don't know how much a CBCS book costs to grade, but if you go with CBCS instead of CGC, you're probably saving a few dollars and your book is going to sell for that much less, roughly. This is as good of a litmus test as I've ever seen for what the difference in market prices are for those two grading services right now. And these things change. It seems to me like PSA is on the way up. I don't know how CBCS is doing. As a collector, as a buyer, the grading notes on CBCS, from what I've seen from the books I've checked, you don't see the grading notes, and you do with CGC. And that matters a lot for buying key books. If you're grading your books, I would say that's a big reason not to go with CBCS. If you're buying books, again, it's a good reason not to buy CBCS books. People don't like paying for them as much, and you can't find as much information. I really like CGC's transparency about why they gave a book the grade they gave it. Even if you don't agree with them, at least you have it right there. They don't always give grading notes, but for the most part, for higher end books, they will usually tell you why they gave it that grade. This 8.0, fair market's $2,400, and it sold for $2,300. I just bought an 8.5 off ComicLink a few months ago. I'm happy having an 8.5. As I've said many times, I'm not a 9.6, 9.8 guy. I do get them now and then, but when I get them, I generally want to sell them. And the 7.5, valued at $2,200, final sale $1,925. All right, I'm going to cut the second night short. This is the end of the first half of the second night of the ComicLink Fall Featured Auction. I'm not sure where in the alphabet we are. We're somewhere between probably giant size X-Men and Hulk. That's where I would guess I'm going to put the break, split it into 2 videos, and then I'll come back in a few days with the second half of the second night. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.